My next guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway because I'm just so excited that he's here. He's the star of Derry Girls, the host of his award-winning podcast, the king of Saturday Night Chat, and for me, the undisputed pound-for-pound stand-up champ. This year, he swapped his Hen House for his tour bus with a new tour which has taken him across Ireland, the UK and America. Would you please welcome back to the Late Late, Tommy Tiernan!
You smell awful. What happened?
I smelled fine at the start. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's great to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
You're just home from a tour of America.
Yeah.
Where were you?
So we started in Toronto, which is in the north of America. And then... yeah. And I was very excited about kind of going over there. So, and I've been going over to States for years, walking by all the cannabis shops. Because it's, it's legal over there. They have these kind of proper things set up for selling cannabis. And I wouldn't be a big drug taker, but I love the idea of drugs. I love the idea of getting stoned and, being out of it. I love the idea of magic mushrooms, of travelling to space and coming back with stories. I love the notion of that. But in actual fact, I prefer cornflakes and coffee. So I went into this cannabis shop in Toronto, and whoever's doing the PR for cannabis is doing such an amazing job, because it'll help you relax, it'll help you laugh, it'll help you sleep, it'll help you concentrate. So I said, just give it to me. And it was awful. I basically just haunted myself for about 4 hours. I was walking down the road with my normal body, and inside there was a ghost, just whoa, like that. So the tour got off to a bad start. So we did Toronto, and then down to Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Chicago, Minneapolis, Calgary, and then over to the West Coast and all the way down.
And
it was relentless. It was relentless.
But when you come to town, are the audiences as wild as they used to be? I remember playing a set one night in the Gotham Comedy Club in New York, and the owner of it said to me, "Do you know Tommy Tiernan? When's he coming back? When he comes back, we've 400 people. They drink all day. It's wild."
There's a kind of... So it depends what part of the States. In America, say, on the East Coast, you get people who emigrated in the 80s. And they're mental, and they just went to America to get a leather jacket. Do you remember them? Fellas would leave Navan in 1982 to get a black leather jacket, and then they'd come home and people would gather around the jacket. "John, come in, Morris got a jacket in New York." And so they were a bit... that's where the illegals would have been, And then on the West Coast, you have the career heads, the people who have left in the last 10 or 15 years to get jobs in IT. So they're not as mad. But the East Coast are definitely, I wouldn't say they're violent, but they have a Pogues energy about them. Do you mean, it's a Christy Moore, Damien Dempsey sing-along that they want.
And is that what you give them?
I find stand-up is so frustrating to me. It's so... it drives me demented. I have a show, and I'm flying, and then I can't find it, I can't do it, and I hate it, so I have this struggle all the time between being in form and being what I think is being out of form.
But when you're out of form, nobody else knows that you're out of form, because you're out of form is still brilliant.
Yeah, I think my wife would have a fair idea. I got off on the phone on the way home from a gig. I'm done. I'm done. Gardening. I'll do gardening. So I do find it it's a continuous kind of to and fro between being inspired and being kind of a bit broken by it. But you keep, no matter how bad I feel a show is of an evening, I always wake up the next morning with notions. What if I could, and I channel people, like Billy Connolly would be a great inspiration to me, do you know? And I'd be kind of going, why don't you just pretend or be inspired by Billy tonight? And you'd call, even though he's still alive, you'd call his ghost to inhabit you. And you'd walk out and so Billy's thing was always that you don't know what story you're going to tell. And you don't know what tangents you're going to do. So sometimes I'd have that. I'd go, hello, and you'd be pulling stuff from your imagination, but I might only get, because I'm not as good as him in that way, so I might only get 2 shows out of that.
Like you're talking about Billy and having, Billy on your shoulder and that voice in your head, and you're roughly the same age as me. Whenever I was growing up, like a Billy Connolly cassette for the car was like a gold bar.
Oh yeah.
Like when that arrived in the house. Like Billy said that you're one of his top 3 favourite comedians of all time. Like, how does that make you feel?
Now, when you said it there, it makes me feel a bit, not emotional, but, you take it on board. And when it happened, it kind of, but when you're doing the thing, you can never see the quality of it. So I always think when people say stuff like that, they're not well. Maybe that was the first sign he wasn't. Maybe the day he said that, the doctor said, Billy, come here. So that would be my feeling on that. But,
Billy has that way of just going off on a tangent and then just, flicking the hair and going, and meanwhile, and he brings you back. And when you were out there, Trump got elected, and I saw a thing that you did on your Instagram where you were saying that, agree with him or don't agree with him, but he's a great storyteller.
Oh, well, I saw a press conference that he did, or whatever that thing he does, and he just, he has these 2 yolks here, where's the script, So he's reading from the script. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest, and America under me, it's going to be just the greatest thing. And then he just gets this notion, and he starts improvising. He goes, "Did you ever see Dirty Dancing? I mean, that's a great movie." Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing. He was incredible. A lot of people say I could dance like Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze. Where's Patrick now? Who cares? I'm here. That's the main thing. America is really safe under my guidance, and stuff. So he was phenomenal from that point of view.
I get very jealous whenever I saw how you were going round America, because me and our 2 young fellas, I always rent a camper van in the summer for them, and they get great crack out of it. But you went full Willie Nelson. You had the tour bus.
I love driving home after shows, so I'll drive home after this. There'll be no crack back there for me now.
No.
I'll get a double espresso. I'll get in the car. And I have an emotional soundtrack that will get me as far as the second toll booth. And I'll be driving out of Dublin. The common people, you want to live with common people like me. And I'll just be, by the time I hit to Enfield, going underground, and the brass balls, they will always say. By the time to get to Athlone, the mood will be changing slowly. It'll be, with or without you. And by the time I get past Ballinasloe, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to sit with you again. So getting on the bus after the show was, I loved it.
Well, you're talking about the road and you're talking about the Cure, but you're bringing this show back to Ireland, and you're going to be doing dates all around Ireland.
Yeah.
And then in January and February, you're doing 17 nights in Vicar Street. So for normal humans that play Vicar Street, I think there's a dressing room, and I think for you and Christy Moore, there's a button in the door and the bookcase turns. Is there somewhere you boys just sleep in Vicar Street. Like, does Peter Aiken have a bed for you when you're doing 17 nights? That is just unbelievable.
Well, again, it's lovely. It's not my decision, though. I don't say to Peter how many nights I want to do. It's people. People say, I want to go to the show. And what my thing is always that if ever they come to see a show, I promise them I'll give it everything I've got. And I might walk off afterwards and vomit out of shame and ask Peter to get me a nun, right? But I will try, and I am committed to the art form and committed to the possibilities of stand-up. I've always been excited about the possibilities of a person in front of a crowd, a person who has a way with words, who is not afraid of silence, and who believes in a kind of, that the ritual of stand-up is important because it's important to have a ceremony where we have no manners. We live in a culture now that is obsessed by rules and regulations. You know, it's just, people are more obsessed with the rules than they are with the game. Everybody's filming everybody all the time, and if you make a mistake, we're going to shame you. We're going to publish this online so as many people as possible will see what a terrible human being. Look at you, you fool, or you blackguard, you bad person. And that's not the type of country that we want to be living in. We know that. But for some reason, it's where we are now. All I can do is testify to the fact that when I was growing up, things were different.
I heard a rumour that maybe next year you might be thinking of running for president. Was that a load of old nonsense that I heard?
Can you imagine? We're so lucky to have an articulate, caring, principled man in the Áras. The parts of being president, I'd love going to matches. I'd love to take the King of Burundi to the Valley Cafe in Navan. I'd be all up for that.
And a game of pool.
And, you know, yeah, we're very lucky to have Michael as our president, and I hope that I know the love of the people is important to him, and I hope he feels it, because it's tangible, it's present, it's real. He's our most respected and loved public figure. So, and we're lucky.
And that is the Tommy Tiernan way of not ruling himself in or ruling himself out.
It wouldn't suit me. It wouldn't suit me.
I mean, I thought when we were at the Vatican, you were very statesmanlike with the Pope. I thought that was good. I would quite like the Pope to come back for a visit to Ireland and to see you on the steps and go, were you again?
Were you moved in any way by that, by meeting the Pope?
Emotionally?
Yeah.
Not really.
No, it was... I kind of got the sense that he's a lovely man and everything, but you kind of got the sense that he was kind of the president of fairy tales. You know, he's the CEO of making stuff up. He's a lovely man. And I think more than Michael, he's also very principled. But you didn't get the sense that he was... I didn't get the sense he was a holy man. Do you know what I mean?
What, so the boys walking around with the beads and all of that didn't...
What I mean by a holy man is I didn't get the sense that I was meeting a saint. I got the sense I was meeting somebody who cares.
So did I.
What was amazing was when I went into St. Peter's Basilica afterwards, and that was just... I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever been to that, but it's the size of a football stadium, and it's full of suffering. Like, it's statues, and it's... Everyone is just in agony, like, and they're just... Even the horses are like, I'm not well! It's a croak park of agony. if you can imagine Mayo are playing Mayo. And if you imagine Mayo are playing Mayo and they still somehow manage to lose by a point. That's the level of bewilderment you're talking about. How does that even happen? So that was emotional, you know. And the fact as well that you can, I wouldn't say it made me Catholic, but I believed in the power of the story and that idea of, first of all, to acknowledge the amount of human suffering that there is. That's important. And then to kind of say, if you base a culture and a society around looking after the weak, and that line from the gospel, in as much as you did it to the least of my brothers, you did it to me. So it's how you look after the weak that you shall be judged, how you look after people who can't look after themselves, how you help others. That's the most important thing. And that's not a bad philosophy to build a culture around.
Whether you believe or not. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's a wonderful idea. And I was moved by that, I think.
The chat show is back. The TV show is back in January. I know you got a little Christmas present for us. You're back in the Hen House.
So I'm very lucky. So Hector, the greatest storyteller I've ever come across. A picture painter of extraordinary skill and a man full of love and grace and good intentions and awful crack. And Larita, just a spirit that is a pleasure to be around. She'd lift you. You know, she kind of... and I'm the kind of the grumpy one that is buoyed by them. So we're doing 2 more episodes of the podcast. Larita had a beautiful baby girl called Lola. So she took some time off for that, for the conception and all that. If you're going to do it right, like, do you know what I mean? If you're going to... so we're back together for a couple of episodes of the podcast. So that's... they're wonderful friends, wonderful.
Tommy, I could sit here and talk to you all night. We have to let you go. You're playing Vicar Street in January.
Yeah.
You've got the chat show back. You've the podcast back. The diary next autumn, that's looking empty. So watch this space for where our man might turn up. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Tommy Tiernan.
Thanks, Tommy.
You can